He's faking. Okay, yeah, we had the return of Kiriya Kujo to the show today. Also on the updates front, I have now seen Kamen Rider Exciting Ghost Heisei Generations. It's a decent movie, but I don't think it's better than Mega Max. I don't think they used the massive cast as fully as they could have. They kind of just rushed the side characters of both Ghost and Excite out of the way to shove forward their battle against Zaizen and his genome evolution project after his entire group came back from the game world. I'm still kind of not flummoxed, confused, not confused either. They don't really describe what the game world is, like digital existence, something like that, maybe just a simplification of whatever they're trapped in or as. I'm assuming, though, that their infection and digitization as Bugster victims predates the creation of the Proto-Gashats, which would mean they would not be sent into them as save data storage like before, so that probably is tying to their own personal evolution and how they evolved through the Proto-Gashats. But now we see a bit more of how those Proto-Gashats that we're seeing at the beginning of the series played into their whole scheme, with how they're first stolen and then utilized to empower all of the Bugster humans, while Zaizen propagates his own genome's form. And how it does, in a way, allude to the Proto-Gashats utilization currently in the storyline with Kiriya, and how anyone killed through the Bugster virus can in some way come back. That is actually good seeding and good timing for that. Other thoughts on it? This is probably the first movie among all the Kamen Rider and, to a lesser extent, Super Sentai movies not written by a previous writer on those shows that seemed to respect the continuity of them, between Haruto's cameo as a wizard trying to bring hope and somehow sensing someone in despair as one of Takeru's classmates in school. I think it's either high school or college. He missed a year, so he might just be taking a recovery year, or possibly colleges in Japan requiring a dress code. That would seem kind of odd, but that's neither here nor there. He senses that this person taken victim to be forcibly evolved by Zaizen into this new supreme monster form that he believes is, then, of course, the next level of human evolution, because we have that recurring thing in Kamen Rider. So yeah, I see, that kind of rationalizes to me Haruto's appearance, and they play off well of continuity of Takeru and Shinosuke having met each other before and explained their respective instances, so when they went to the police for information on these other guys, when Takeru and company got caught up in their machinations through Takeru's classmate getting abducted, Shinosuke being brought in as a resource and him still showing support even without his rider powers before he gets them back at the end of the movie is a good utilization of their meeting. I should say their meetings, because apparently this movie counts Movie War Genesis as canon, despite the wealth of continuity and setting and story errors that that movie has. I'm rationalizing it as it's a movie that Toei made, so might as well count it, even though it does not actually reflect both series correctly, like the loose continuity stance. But at the very least, it's respecting someone else's past work, which is more than what I can say for many of Toei's other crossover movies. And really, that's what I want from them. That's what I want them actually doing amongst this. When you, even if you're respecting the continuity of something that did not respect continuity, you're still respecting the core of the work. And that is, in essence, what I've wanted to see more from Toei's works. From the Spring movies, from the Super Sentai team-ups, from pretty much just every bad Toei crossover violates that exact thing, and this movie is not doing that, for once. And it's the example that proves the rule about how Toei screws these up when they don't need to, and you just need to do a small nod to show people you watch those shows and you have some idea of how those characters should act. Which, as I said before, is exactly where the Spring movies always screw up. But yeah, a lot of good continuity stuff with Shinosuke is toyed with here, because at that exact time, and in the movie itself, they acknowledge Kiriko is now pregnant with Eiji Tomari, their son, who was born circa 2017. I know it's 2017 now, but that movie took place around December of 2016 in the greater franchise's timeline. So yeah, this syncs up with the expected birth of their son, who was introduced back in Surprise Future. There's a long chain of this, which also does factor in Drive Saga 2 Kamen Rider Mach, because at the point that movie takes place, Eiji is freshly born and Kiriko is on maternity leave. I think that's how it works out. There might be a bit of divergence because the Eiji in that seemed a bit old for a newly born, but it's hard to get like very young babies for these types of film roles, so I can see them kind of fudging with his age a bit. It wouldn't be the first time a series has done that. Ghost part of the movie, I think, was the weakest parts of it, though I did find a lot of humor in kind of how they played with it. Like, they acknowledge it's not the best series, and oh my, we have critiques over that among the Toku circle. I've heard the ones through my, with my, I shouldn't say cohorts, but peers over among the Reviewtopia guys, and how they pretty much slammed the show. So, good and bad to get them out of the way for the most part, so we could focus on the XI story, because over time that has definitely developed to be the greater show, but it's not done in a way that so much disrespects them, but shows that without their undeath immortality, their power sets, oh, and also without the power of the Great Eye supplanting the power of the souls of both themselves and the ghost icons, they're not exactly as strong as they used to be, even with apparently all of their equipment has survived the Great Eye going bye-bye, even though the whole Gamma Eye system has otherwise gone away entirely. I think it's because it's maintained on the power of their own souls, like I was saying, and no longer matched on the Great Eye, which allows them to still exist in those forms, but in more restrained and limited power sets, which more syncs with what we saw in the final episode of Ghost, which was also the first XI crossover, and that is acknowledged as well. So yeah, this is probably one of the best Kamen Rider movies for acknowledging and playing off of existing content. I keep saying that, and it keeps being true about this, but the Dr. Pac-Man part of it, yeah, that's goofy, but in the context of XI with its overall gaming tones, it does fit. Plus, you know, when they're actually bringing, for once, in a real game character or game property, they're showing it again, that's another key to this movie. They're showing it respect, and how the image of something can so easily be abused by those wanting to manipulate or have an easy pawn for plans. Because, you know, if it's a cultural icon being used for evil, it no longer becomes a cultural icon. And the entire fights with the whole Pac-Man thing are pretty damn silly, but it's like it works pretty damn well. Yeah, like, the biggest humorous thing that come from this entire idea is that Takeru gets his ghost powers eaten by little Pac-Man minions, which is of course playing off of how you play the actual Pac-Man game and advance in difficulty with it by eating the ghosts after eating a power pellet. They call it something else in the movie. I'm blanking on the exact term they used, but it's like Excite has been very good with the gaming references and utilizing them to either like hidden Easter eggs or advancing the story along those lines. Like having Brave and Excite in the early side of the show trying to move with the pace of the Doremi Fa Beat Gasha Bugster, like the Calabros Bugster that was using its powers, so they can actually get past its utilization of those abilities. And just even having shirts and stuff like that. This is using that referential humor to advance the story of why Takeru is depowered and has to take more of a back seat before regaining them for the larger conflict that comes into play. The movie also has some good team-up fights with the secondary riders, which are then put out of the rest of the movie, by them getting injured in battle with the Genos team, which then, of course, enforces the final battle with the returning four, because Takeru should be counted amongst them, Heisei riders. It is really obvious they didn't get Gaku Sano back with how they recycle old lines and how they don't match the audio quality of the movie in and of itself. I mean, we've known for months now that Gaku Sano was not able to reprise his role due to a scheduling conflict, I believe was the cited reason. I'm still surprised they didn't just get him in a recording studio to record some ADR lines, as that should not have taken much time. That would have absolved the scheduling conflict issues as they did in the movie. They just had him, had his character transformed as Guy the entire time, which, hey, isn't out of the realm of possibility because he is now a transcendent space god, which is, of course, also referenced in the movie by Shinosuke saying that. But that is probably where the movie breaks down a bit in how Gaim is used as a shortcut to recovering Krim from the drive pit's sealed lockup and pretty much Krim being put back to sleep, which admittedly is a good way to solve the gaping plot hole of Movie War Genesis, in how, like, Krim just comes the hell out of nowhere, despite him supposedly having been locked up. I mean, yeah, they write it off as, I remembered this after we had that experience in time, but that entire trip back in time in that movie just was such a cause of headaches and continuity and internal continuity errors, not greater franchise continuity errors, with how they went Star Trek Voyager relativity with their time travel and just said, I don't give a shit. And that was not good. But yeah, that's the rationale for why Shinosuke is repowered for this and gets back all his abilities for this short beatdown, presumably with Krim putting himself back in lockup because the reason he went into lockup in the first place has not changed, but presumably with the opportunity to keeping more in contact with Shinosuke in the event they need him in the future, because, let's face it, Toei will keep calling upon Kamen Rider Drive in future team-up movies. It would probably be a good idea to have an emergency contact condition revising that whole loss of relationship. And admittedly, that would then keep him out of it to let Mach Saga and not Mach Saga, Drive Saga, Mach and Heart to roll over without him being around. And I really like what they did with Shinosuke in the film overall. But why I don't think it better in Megamax is they definitely did not use the characters as well. They went a bit more for the forceful action scenes and less a development in the story, even with the much longer running time. It feels like the action scenes were padding out a storyline that did not have enough in it to justify its full run. Unlike Megamax, which had the Forest story, the O's story, and then a well-developed subplot tying all the movies and the final fight together. There's one other thing. There's not even a continuity error about the creation of Mighty Brothers Double X. That surprised me, as I thought that was where they were going to mess this up, because Mighty Brothers Double X is actually made after the events of the movie chronologically, because Kiriya is still alive in this movie, then he dies, then Mighty Brothers Double X is manifested. But from what we can garner from the movie scene, it looks more like when Emu learned of his Bugster infection from Zaizen at the end of the movie. Fans of the series, fans of Xide, will also remember that he learns of it later, and at both times he has a very similar freak out with the orange and blue glowing lines appearing all over his body, and then him collapsing and a different mindset taking over, with him then having temporary amnesia over the entire incident. Now, with the context that Parad is Emu's Bugster, and Mighty Brothers originally being created for Parad's use, and him giving it to Emu, and that manifesting Mighty Brothers Double X from it, it's possible that Parad likewise saved him in the same way he did before, possessed Emu on the short term, and them, united as one, temporarily reconverted their Gashots into Mighty Brothers Double X. That's my rationale for it, in keeping with what we see visually in the movie about that transformation, and how temporary a power-up it is in that event, as after they beat down Zaizen with it, the power of it completely vanishes, and Emu reunites into one. His Gashots are returned to normal. So, what later happened with the black Gashots that got converted into Mighty Brothers is, it's possible with the greater Bugster infection Emu got shot within that, and then was converted back into Mighty Brothers, is that Gashot taking this primordial program seen from Emu's root Bugster infection and how it was used to manifest Parad, and making something physical out of it, especially with how we see Parad use that later. This is definitely all storyline seeding, since the movie was written by Yuya Takahashi himself, who has been the writer for pretty much all of Xide. I come to think of it, I don't think he's let another writer into the show as of yet. I'm pretty sure he might have written all of it. So it's keeping it all contiguous with his intended vision for him to see these things, especially with how they've all been called back to in the storyline of the series so far, both with Zaizen taking the virus originally from Emu, which is not actually presented in the movie. They just say he was the first person infected with the Bugster virus. The implication from the movie is that Zaizen infected him and then experimented on him, when Zaizen was later revealed through the storyline to just be a puppet for Kuroto's machinations, and what actually created Parad as well by splitting him off. In fact, we see a small scene of Parad manifesting, though not visually, just a massive Bugsters collecting into a person before the scene of the film cuts out. That is also excellent storyline seeding there. So, yeah, this is all very well done, and I think it's high for the Kamen Rider crossover movies, but like I said, I just feel like I like Megamax more. Though, as I said, this all ties into, to date, this week's events because the Kamen Rider Lazar Hyper Battle video got released, and it's also continuing to see the storyline by appearing to allude to Kiriya's true motivations as, well, while the Hyper Battle video is just a piece of superfluous fluff at the end of it, Poppy, Hiro, and Emu finding a last will, so to speak, of Kiriya on his computer, asking them to play Bakuso Explorer, and then going into it to clear it. It's like he's leading, from the beginning of it, you think of him as leading them on again to the ultimate goal, as the game is apparently a prototype even before alpha build of Kamen Rider Chronicle, meaning it has data in it that is that could lead to further understanding of Kamen Rider Chronicle, which is of course huge for the current storyline and the coming of game deus. What we find at the end of the otherwise superfluousness of all of it is two things. One, Exide has to pretend to be a bugster to get information from a bugster to progress to the ending goal of the game within a game within the special we're exploring, which parallels how Emu and the others have had to work with bugsters to achieve a more common goal, or at the very least trick the opposing side to thinking they're on their side. And then the ultimate prize of that, at the end of it, is the proto-gashots, like all 9 of them that is not Genims. So, how that parallels what's going on right now is, this is indeed Kiriya. He is not brainwashed. He is working with Kronos this entire, of his own free will, this entire time since his revival. Through the perception of it being a combination of gratitude, and Kronos' model of world conquest is get everyone play Kamen Rider Chronicle, make them infected by the bugster virus, and then sell them their own health back as a way to control humanity through a business corporation. Of course, paralleling several aspects of real life where corporations are love, corporations are life, corporations are all you are, and you are merely a commodity to be bought and sold by the corporation that is actually the citizen you were counted as part of for just... Yeah, I can literally go on about that, but that's getting completely off topic. But everyone has a price, as Masamune has shown. Kagami has his girlfriend, which is leading to him evolving into Brave level 100 through the Title Fantasy Gashot, which is, of course, being given to him at the end of the episode. I'm not sure from how Kagami's acting in that scene, but it kind of looks like he recognizes it, which may or may not allude to the events of the last Spring movie, and yeah, I've already been told how terrible that one was. But, with Kiriya, he is being paid in proto-gashots, which he has been using as his own special weapons in the fights to keep the commerce suppressed. But this parallels the story of the Hyper Battle video that that is named after him and he is starring in, as it is the exact same goal. Trick someone and get their help to recover these proto-gashots. And as we already know from the development of the series, the proto-gashots are keys to saving everyone that died from the bugster virus. So, I think he's playing them. I think he's using his liar nature to trick both sides, make Masamune think he's on his side because he doesn't know about his lying streak, and deceive everyone else because, let's face it, he's got to be bitter about being revived from the dead by this third party and finding out the situation is far worse than he started out with. And, you know, him having some actual bitterness towards that because he gave his life and all this other information for them to actually achieve that, and they've been screwing it up. It's like, he has a legitimate reason to, like, take this path to achieve that ultimate goal. Hell, especially since they're allied with the guy who killed him. They even call that out. This is being very intelligently presented for him being a new bad guy now, and even pissing off Emu to the point that he actually punches Kiriya at the end of the episode as Kiriya calls him out on all of this and seeks to demean is not the word I'm looking for, seeks to demoralize him to stop him from fighting back and just accept the new fate of the world, the encroaching superstition of other people's, how did I put this a while ago? I phrased this more intelligently in a scripted video, as, you know, I do far better with a script than I do off the cuff like this, because Kamen Riders are those who fight against a world order that wishes to make the world go wrong. I put it more intelligently and more colloquially in scripted form, but I think that's the gist of it. So this is Kiriya's own twist on this, because I don't want to say he can't trust, but he's playing the long game. I believe he's appearing to get into Kronos' good graces to then later betray him and show he is the real person. And he whispers something to Kiriya in this episode that makes Emu go berserk. But I think what he said is something along the lines of play along. And, you know, Emu catching on to it because of the liar nature he's had in the early side of the show. This will depend on whether they actually let the short bit of it where he's silently whispering something to Emu, on whether it was cut down or not. He only had the time for 3 or 4 words, not a long sentence in here to possibly allude to that. So I'm not exactly certain what could have fit in that range to tip him off, but it's clear Emu took the bait because he is acting completely against character when he punches him, and the like the balled up fists, the serious expression on his face then is not so much out of character. It's a recreation of the determination his Kiriya's earlier speech was trying to tear down. So it's like, it's letting him in. I believe he let Emu in on this, so it would prepare him for what would need to be done following this. And yeah, this is definitely one of another high watermark episode of XI, but that will definitely depend on how they develop all of this, because with the running subplot for Kagami, it's like, my condemnation of him as an idiot and not getting anything he wanted out of this deal and it being completely obvious from the outside is continuing to be proven completely true, with how he continues to be made subservient to this man he can't stand and the helplessness he feels at his girlfriend remanifested from the Dragon Knight Hunter Gashat, and he doesn't know what to do because he's being played. Because we already know from the outside that Graphite has all of Saki's memories that is needed to revive her fully from the Gashat, and like her doll-like state is just him looking at what would be a good phrase to look at this? Playing the Director Church from Red vs. Blue, how he keeps playing the same video of his dead wife over and over again at the end of season 10 of Red vs. Blue? Yeah, it's with that same type of brokenness now, and you see more of that as they develop this, but I still keep calling him an idiot on this because, as I said a couple episodes ago when we had his heel face turn, we were previously in win condition for him to actually get on to saving his girlfriend had they just beaten Kronos. And it's like, I think they're trying to make clear that he's regretting that decision more and more, and with the Kiriya revelations, and I believe the becoming double cross from him, that they will recover all of the proto-Gashots and that just leaving Graphite to deal with. And the only further complication I see coming from this is Graphite has been infected with and is propagating Game Deus's virus within him. So, that means that the save data Graphite has of Saki that makes up his entire being may in fact be lost with whatever Game Deus does to Graphite. It's like if it devours Graphite to propagate itself and create its own outbreak of the ultimate Bugster virus, if all of that is lost, then Saki will permanently be dead, and it will all be Kagami's fault by him betraying the others when they were closing in on their capability to recover those Gashots, clear Kamen Rider Chronicle entirely, and save everyone. It would definitely be immensely ironic for that to happen to Kagami, and, like, void the usual, as of the Neo Heisei era run, of most of the characters getting a happy ending, as opposed to original Showa, or this was definitely heavily present in the first half of the Heisei run, of many of the endings being bittersweet, even with their ultimate victory. Like, Toshiki and Nue series were heavy on this with several of the characters, and I admit I would not be adverse to that being how this ended, but I know that's not how they're going to do this anymore. I intellectually know that's not where they're going to take it, but it would be interesting for everything Kagami has ever worked for. No, rephrase. It would be a great twist on this twist that what Kagami betrayed everyone to obtain was lost simply by him making the wrong choice in the wrong moment. So, I'm curious how they're going to take Kagami's expected heel face turn in betraying Kronos after they finally debut Brave level 100. I want the Teto Legacy, gosh, that thing looks glorious, and since I'm the RPG gamer guy, it's like, I just want Braids of equipment, because that appeals the most to me out of the entire cast's equipment. Admittedly, that and the bug visors. I really like the bug visors. So, excited about a lot of good stuff this week, and we're not, I believe it's next week or the week after, but I'm pretty sure that this next week, episode 36 is getting preempted for golf, which would sync with with the preview information we've had for the end of Excite happening in August. If they have a few golf events scheduled to intercede in the episodes, that would probably lead to the episode count being mid-40s by where it ends, so we're pretty much all synced up for the end game starting soon after Hyper Muteki's reveal, debut, whatever, in the next 2 weeks, depending on how that falls. So, might not have a Toku vlog episode next week, again, depending on if I'm getting my dates right from what I remember off the top of my head. Right now, I'm trying to get the Toei Spider-Man reviews up on YouTube. I've literally just uploaded them, and I have to check them through to make sure they're not getting hit by Content ID. People who've been watching my YouTube page just saw I got all the Ultraman Tiga videos up on there after some delays, and those delays were caused by incessant Content ID claims that were coming from different sources every time I re-rendered the videos differently. So, that was more of a hassle than I thought they were, but I'm hoping, since nothing's popped on them yet, I have to leave them to wait a day to sit, because Toei's bots are not always consistent with that. But hopefully I'll be able to get those up before too long. So, until then, I will see you guys all next time.